and welcome to Stories and Snacks with Isabel. Now, today we are reading Demon Dentist Chapter 3. Let's read. If you haven't read, so like I said in the other videos, we do prologue on Chapter 1 together, Chapter 2, Chapter 3. We only go up to Chapter 3, just in case, like, if you really like it, you can buy it, because I don't want to spoil it for you. If you haven't read prologue in Chapter 1 or Chapter 2, please can you read those? Prologue and Chapter 1 first and following, because it makes more sense. So, on our final chapter, well, not final, because we've got this much left, but the last chapter that we're doing for Demon Dentist. Okay, Chapter 3, Whiter Than White. The whole of the lower school was gathered in the hall. The few hundred children were sitting in rows of chairs, awaiting the guest speaker. No one interesting ever visited Alfie's school. On prize-giving day, the guest of honour had been a man who made the cardboard for cornflake packets. Cornflakes cardboard man's speech was so mind-numbingly boring, he even fell asleep delivering it. Today there was a talk from the town's new dentist. It was to be a lecture about looking after your teeth. Not wildly exciting, but at least it meant they were out of lessons for a while, thought Alfie. Not liking dentists, Alfie sat himself right in the back row in his bedraggled school uniform. His shirt was once white, but had long since gone grey. His jumper was full of holes. His blazer was torn in several places. His trousers were too short for him. Nevertheless, Alfie's father had taught him to wear his uniform with pride. The boy's frayed tie was always knotted absolutely perfectly. Slumped next to Alfie was the only kid in the school shorter than him, a very little girl called Gabs. Seemingly shy, no one had heard her speak, despite her having been at the school now for a whole term. Most of the time, Gabs hid behind her curtain of dreadlocks, not making eye contact with anyone. When all the kids had finally stopped monkeying around and sat down, the headmaster took to the stage. There was ever a competition to find the man most completely unsuited to being a headmaster. Mr. Grey would win first prize. Children scared him, teachers scared him, even his own reflection scared him. If his job didn't suit Mr. Grey, his surname definitely did. His shoes, his socks, his trousers, his belt, his shirt, his tie, his jacket, his hair, even his eyes were all shades of grey. Mr. Grey had the whole grey colour spectrum covered. So there he is, and I'll read you what it says. Light grey, greyish grey, charcoal grey. Dark grey, dove grey, grey, greyish grey, granite grey. Socks, not particularly grey. Okay. Come on now, settle down, Mr. Grey stammered when he was nervous. Nothing made him more nervous than having to speak in front of the whole school. Legend had it that one day the school inspector visited, and they actually found him hiding under his desk pretending to be a footstool. I settled down. If anything, the hum of the kids became louder. Just then, Gabs stood on her chair and shouted at the top of her voice, "Come on, give the old fart a break." And there's the picture of Gabs standing on a chair. Might not have been the most flattering choice of words, The headmaster allowed himself a brief flicker of a smile as all the kids at last fell silent. Everyone looked at Gabs as she sat back down after her outburst. The girl was now surrounded by the strange glow of celebrity. Good, continued Mr. Gray, his grey monotonous voice. Bit less of the old, though. Thank you, Gabriella. Now, as a special treat for you, with a talk about looking after your teeth, here's the town's new dentist. Please give a huge school welcome to the lovely Miss Root. As the headmaster scuttled off, there was a short burst of applause. Soon this was drowned out by a discordant squeaking sound from the very back of the hall. One by one, the kids turned around. The lady was pushing a shiny metal trolley down through the parted sea of chairs. One of the wheels were catching on the wooden floor, and the high-pitched squeal was so brain-aching some of the children even put their fingers in their ears. The sound was like someone scratching their fingernails down a blackboard. Oh, I really hate that sound where it's like, oh gosh, terrible. The first thing you noticed about Miss Root was her teeth. She had the most dazzling white smile, whiter than white, like a fluorescent light. Her teeth were absolutely flawless. The second thing you noticed about Miss Root was that she was impossibly tall. Her legs were so long and thin, it was like watching someone walk on stilts. She was dressed in a light laboratory coat, like the one a science teacher wears when it's time for an experiment. Underneath the coat, her white blouse was matched by a long white flowing skirt. As she passed, Alfie looked down and noticed a large splash of red on the toe of one of her shiny white high-heeled shoes. Is it blood? Thought Alfie. Miss Root's hair was white blonde and arranged in perfectly lacquered dew, usually only spotted on the heads of queens or prime ministers. The dew was shaped much like a Mr. Whippy ice cream, minus the flake, of course. In a certain light, she looked very old. Her features were narrow and pointy, and her skin pale as snow. However, the dentist had painstakingly painted on so much makeup that it was impossible to tell how old she really was. 50, 90, 900. There's the picture of her. Finally, Miss Root reached the front of the hall. She turned around and smiled. The low winter sun shone through the high windows and bounced off her teeth, causing the front few rows to cover their eyes. Good morning, children, she said brightly. The dentist spoke in a sing-song manner, literally recounting a nursery rhyme. There was a collective groan from the kids being spoken to as they were toddlers. I said, "Good morning, children," repeated the dentist, and she fixed them all with a powerful stare. So powerful that soon a hush descended upon the room. Then, in unison, all the assembled people said, "Good morning." Let me introduce myself. I'm your new dentist. My name is Miss Root. I ask all my little patients like you to call me Mummy. Alfie and Gab shared a look of disbelief. So, can I hear a great big hello, Mummy, after 3? 1, 2, 3. Miss Root mouthed the word silently as the children joined in. Hello, Mummy, they murmured. Excellent. Now, I came into this town when I was very unfortunate. The fatal accident. Excellent. Now, I came into this town when a very unfortunate and deep fatal accident befell Mr. Erstwhile. The poor wretch must have fallen onto one of his own dental instruments. The irony. Of course, there's no need to go into all the gory details, but suffice it to say, Mr. Erstwhile was found lying on the floor of his surgery in a huge pool of blood. The dental probe was embedded deep in his heart. A deafening silence descended on the hall. Alfie gulped. It was a horrifying image. Mr. Earthwell may have been odd and doddery, but could he have really accidentally stabbed himself in the heart? Mummy would like you all to give 1 minute silence for Mr. Earthwell. Now close your eyes, children. All of you. No peeping. Alfie didn't trust Miss Root enough to close his eyes. Oh, did Gabs. Both screwed up their faces and squinted from out of the tiny slits in his eyelids. Alfie spied something very strange. Instead of standing in front with her own eyes closed, Miss Root tiptoed around the room, inspecting all the children's teeth. When she finally reached Alfie's row at the back, the boy squeezed his eyes tightly shut for fear of getting into trouble. Miss Root must have lingered looking at his rotten teeth, as his rotten set, as the boy could feel her cold breath on his face for a while before she tiptoed back to the front of the hall. And that's 1 minute, the dentist announced. Thank you, children. You can open your eyes. Alfie and Gabs looked at each other again. They were the only two kids who had witnessed Miss Root's peculiar behaviour. And there she is, spraying stuff into Alfie's mouth. Chapter 4. He's blacker than black. And we have finished Demon Dentist. So if you would like that book, ask your parents, grandmas, granddads, aunties, uncles, whoever you live with, to ask to buy that book. Or you can buy it with your own money. David Walliams' Demon Dentist. Now, if you want to hear more stories, go to my website, Stories and Snacks with Isabel. Bye bye.